Have you ever wondered why Boko Haram or ISIS, when they capture a village, that they take some of the women as slaves? I'm going to explain it to you today, focusing solely on early Islamic history. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Welcome to the program, friend. I need to let you know that today's episode is not child-friendly. So if there's any children in the room, I highly recommend that you quickly ask the kids to leave. When we created this series, What Would Muhammad Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained, we made a commitment to only use primary Islamic sources. That means that it's their foundational literature. So if we were doing a study on Christianity, we would use the Bible, okay? So we went to the Quran, to the Hadith, and to the Siras, the biographies on Muhammad, and to Sharia law. That's it, using only their material. So using only their material, we are going their primary material, their foundational material. We're going to explain to you today the connection of Islamic terrorism to the sexual abuse of women. Here it is.
Women, teenagers, little girls taken hostage by ISIS or Boko Haram or other Muslim terrorists, then raped or kept as sex slaves or sold at auction and put in forced marriages. As Islamic literature shows, these sexual crimes against women are allowed under the Muslim rules of war, perpetrated by Muhammad and his companions. The New York Times did an in-depth story on these horrific deeds entitled ISIS Enshrines a Theology of Rape. The author rightly grasped that the rape and slavery of women captured by ISIS is a theological issue for Muslims, not a criminal one.
The Islamic State cites specific verses or stories in the Quran or else in the Sunnah, the traditions based on the sayings and deeds of the Prophet Muhammad to justify their human trafficking.
They interviewed girls who had been captured and raped by ISIS Muslim terrorists and then escaped. A 12-year-old girl told her story.
I kept telling him, "It hurts. Please stop." He told me that according to Islam, he's allowed to rape an unbeliever. He said that by raping me, he's drawing closer to God.
Another girl, this one 15 years old, told her horrifying story.
Every time that he came to rape me, he would pray. He kept telling me this is worship. He said that raping me is his prayer to God. I said to him, "What you're doing to me is wrong, and it will not bring you closer to God." And he said, "No, it's allowed."
The rapist was correct in arguing that under Islamic theology and law, what he was doing was not a crime nor a sin, because the Quran gave him permission and Muhammad himself did such acts. And in Islam, the Quran and Muhammad's example determine what is allowed. These Muslims don't see themselves as rapists or terrorists. They see themselves as servants of Allah, following Muhammad's example. Muhammad and the first generation of Muslims set the standard for the sexual abuse of women and girls captured by ISIS, Boko Haram, and other Muslim terrorists. These terrorists are following and imitating the storyline of Muhammad and his companions. They study the books we're studying. They read the stories and they believe them. ISIS has a magazine called Dubik. In their 2014 issue, ISIS released a lengthy defense of their practice of sexual slavery. ISIS declares with pride in having sex slaves because Muhammad and his companions did. The author, a woman, opens her article stating that sexual slavery is a pure prophetic tradition of Muhammad. She quotes the Quran, and just as often, one of Muhammad's biographies or the Hadith, focusing on specific stories from Muhammad's life to justify what they do and why they do it. Far from running from Muhammad's teaching and Muhammad's example, they embrace them. She boasts that Muhammad had 4 sexual slaves.
Al-Tabari records that Allah gave his messenger Rehana as booty after Muhammad killed the men of Banu Qurayza. Maria was a slave given to Muhammad as a gift from the leader of the Copts.
She rightly recounts that nearly all Muhammad's companions practiced sexual slavery. She says,
"They treaded upon the path of the Prophet after him. Therefore, we almost cannot find a companion who didn't practice sexual slavery."
Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the Church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation.
The Quran has several passages that teach that a Muslim may have lawful sex with his wives, up to 4 of them, and with his female slaves captured in war. A slave, in Islamic and Quranic terminology, is referred to as what thy right hand possesses.
O Prophet, we have made law to thy wives to whom thou hast paid their dowers, and those whom thy right hand possesses out of the prisoner of war whom Allah has assigned to thee. And those who guard their chastity except with their wives and their captives whom their right hands possess, for then they are not to be blamed.
Based on these passages in the Quran and the record of what Muhammad did with women, as recorded in his biographies and the Hadith, the ISIS author brazenly defends sexual slavery. She taunts non-Muslims.
Yes, or religions of infidels altogether. We have indeed raided and captured the infidel women and drove them like sheep by the edge of the sword. Did you and your supporters think we were joking on the day we announced the caliphate upon the prophetic methodology?
Part of Muhammad's prophetic methodology was taking sex slaves. She recounts her joy when their family got their first female slave.
I and those with me at home prostrated to Allah in gratitude on the day the first slave girl entered our home. Yes, we thanked our Lord for having let us live to the day we saw infidels humiliated, and its banner destroyed. Here we are today, after centuries, reviving a prophetic sunnah, which both the Arab and non-Arab enemies of Allah had buried. By Allah, we brought it back by the edge of the sword, and we didn't do so through pacifism, negotiations, democracy, or elections. We established it according to the prophetic way, with blood-red swords, not with fingers for voting or tweeting.
Deceitful apologists of Islam in the United States and around the world assure us that ISIS is not following Muhammad's example in the matter of sexually abusing women. Once again, they are lying. The extensive record in Islamic literature, the Quran, the Hadith, and Muhammad's oldest biographies, this literature provides a mountain of evidence proving that ISIS has in fact revived Muhammad's example regarding sexual slavery. Muhammad established this practice and continued it for years with no alteration right up until his death in 632. His companions and his successors, the caliphs, continued this barbarous treatment of women, and in his shadow, it continues to this day. Here are some examples from Muhammad's life. Muhammad and his men conquered the predominantly Jewish city of Khaybar. After the victory, he told his men the terms under which they could rape the women.
It's not lawful for a man who believes in Allah and the last day to mingle his seed with another man's, meaning to approach carnally a pregnant woman among the captives, nor is it lawful for him to take her until he has made sure that she is in a state of cleanness.
Being in a state of cleanness means that she had her menstrual cycle, ensuring that she was not pregnant. After the Battle of Khaybar, Muhammad took for himself a sex slave, the beautiful teenager Safiya, after he had her husband tortured with fire to find hidden money and then had him beheaded.
The Prophet then brought Safiya, whom he had won from the war booty.
The Muslims said amongst themselves, "Will she, Safiya, be one of the mothers of the believers, one of the wives of the Prophet, or just a lady captive of what his right hand possesses?" Some of them said, "If the Prophet makes her observe the veil, then she will be one of the mothers of the believers, one of the Prophet's wives. And if he does not make her observe the veil, then she will be his lady slave." When he departed, he made a place for her behind him and made her observe the veil.
This is exactly what ISIS is doing. The leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, captured and then repeatedly raped the American woman Kyla Mueller. Ultimately, he claimed her as his wife and made her wear the veil, just like Muhammad did with Safiya. One of the women who escaped ISIS testified.
Al-Baghdadi married Kayla. She was his wife. He did not allow his friend Abu Sayyaf to see her face. Always she had to wear the veil.
Tragically, Miss Mueller was killed during an attempted rescue mission. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception.
We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. In another account of Muhammad's brutality toward women captured in battle, we read this.
Allah's messenger sent an army to Al-Tas and encountered the enemy and fought with them. Having overcome them and taking them captive, the companions of Allah's messenger seemed to refrain from having intercourse with captive women because of their husbands being polytheists.
Usually, Muslims killed all the husbands. However, on this occasion, the husbands were still alive. Muhammad's men didn't know what to do, so they asked Muhammad if it was legal to rape these married women while their husbands yet lived. Muhammad said he got a revelation from God. Muslims were forbidden to have sex with married women unless they were slaves or captives of war, such as the women they had just captured.
Also forbidden are women already married, except those captives and slaves whom your right hands possess.
With Muhammad's approval and a Quranic revelation to justify their detestable crimes, his men proceeded to rape their female captives, young and old, virgins and the married. Those of Muhammad's men who raped married women could not be accused of adultery because all their marriages were annulled. They could not be accused of rape because the women were slaves. Based on these words and actions of Muhammad, Islamic Sharia law states,
When a child or a woman is taken captive, they become slaves by the fact of capture, and the woman's previous marriage is immediately annulled.
this is Islam. This is Islamic Sharia law. And this is exactly what ISIS practices and states.
The right hand's possession are the female captives who were separated from their husband by enslavement. They became lawful for the one who ends up possessing them, even without pronouncement of divorce by their infidel husbands.
Here is yet another example from Muhammad's life.
We went out to Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him, on the expedition to the Bil Mastalik, and took captive some excellent Arab women, and we desired them, for we were suffering from the absence of our wives. But at the same time, we also desired ransom for them. So we decided to have sexual intercourse with them, but by observing coitus interruptus. But we said, we are doing an act whereas Allah's messenger is amongst us. Why not ask him? So we asked Allah's messenger, and he said,
It does not matter if you do not do it, for every soul that is to be born up to the day of resurrection will be born.
Note that Muhammad did not rebuke his men for raping the women. These particular men did not want children from their captives. That's all Muhammad addressed. However, capturing sex slaves for the purpose of bearing children was a practice of Muhammad's companions. For example, one of Muhammad's young warriors said,
I wanted Muhammad to win this battle so that I might get a girl whom I might tread so that she might bear me a son. For Thaqif are a people who produce intelligent children.
ISIS boasts in their magazine that they have sex slaves who are even now bearing children for Muslim terrorists.
Some slave girls in our state are now pregnant, and some of them have even been set free for Allah's sake and got married in the courts of Islamic State after becoming Muslims and practicing Islam well.
With yet another theological justification for their crimes, she notes that Abraham had Ishmael by Hagar, and that Muhammad's sexual slave, Maria the Copt, bore Muhammad a son, Ibrahim, who died when he was 18 months old. They quote Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law.
My slave girls whom I copulate with are 19 in number. Some of them bore me children, some of them are pregnant, and some of them are childless.
Muhammad also had a child bride, Aisha. She was 6 years old when the marriage was contracted, 9 years old when the marriage was consummated. In recent years, deceitful Muslim propagandists like Reza Aslan have tried to convince those who are appalled that she was so young that she was in fact much older, that she had at least reached puberty. They deliberately ignore Aisha's own testimony. Ironically, Muslims credit Aisha with over half of Muhammad's canonical hadith. They don't discredit her as a witness, nor challenge those who recorded her words regarding Muhammad's behavior on any issue except regarding when she says that Muhammad consummated his marriage with her when she was a child.
What Would Muhammad Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, "I learned more from What Would Muhammad Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life." Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, "What Would Muhammad Do is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Muhammad and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced." Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Over the years, I've had the privilege of interviewing some incredible guests, like Dr. Alan Keyes, former ambassador to the United Nations, like Dr. Elvita King, niece of the slain civil rights activist Dr. Martin Luther King, and Judge Roy Moore, two-time head of the Supreme Court in Alabama. These interviews are so powerful, so memorable, and so inspirational. We have decided to make them available to you on 2 DVDs for only a gift of $15. That's it. If you love this ministry, you want to support us, and you want these to show to your family and friends, or just for yourself, to watch at your leisure, get them today. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700. Friend, I know that this has been a very difficult episode to watch, and you didn't get to see the whole thing because we don't have enough time. I'm encouraging you, get this series. Get it and give it to the feminists in your community. Give it to the female college professors that you know in your life. To those who have been duped into thinking that Islam is a religion of peace and that it's equal to Christianity, and they're both bad, and Christianity is patriarchal. You've heard all the nonsense. Get this series as quickly as you can and then distribute it to your friends. And if you cannot afford the price that we sell them for, we will give it to you for whatever you can afford. You write us a note and it's yours. You're on your honor. We're not in this to make money. We're in this to protect people, to tell the truth, and to explain that this nonsense of Christianity and Islam being able to get along, it's not true. It's insanity. It's a deception from hell itself. And the truth is found in the words of Muhammad and Islam.
Thank you.